There you go.
Hey traders, Cousin Benny coming to you on July the 6th, Saturday, with a look at the week ahead and this weekend's market read. Well, for the last week or so, 2 weeks actually, for the last 2 weeks we've been looking at yields playing into interest-sensitive stocks such as banks, namely BKX and KRE, the regional banks. And as a consequence, we have seen those sectors rally. With regard to the spiders, we're inside of this band. We have a trend line up above and Bollinger Bands above that. All of our MAs are climbing, with the exception of the 20, which is the midpoint of the Bollingers, and we have relative strength climbing back above 50. Have decent volume. And we have a MACD cross on Thursday. We have the signal line crossing signified by the histogram going green. And we have room for stochastics to continue to move higher. Not much to see here on ADX except that the trend itself, we are pretty much moving sideways when ADX is around 20. On balance volume has flattened out. Looks like it wants to move a little bit higher, and CCI is giving us a read similar to RSI. So I think that the market's probably going to continue to move higher. We may see a little bit of a respite in terms of a small pullback and a regrouping, but everything looks pretty good on the BKX and the regionals, the XLP, and a few other sectors which we'll cover here now. So let's take a look at bond yields. Let's see our candle glance bond index. If you have a StockTwits account, you can create these candle glance charts too, so that you can look at all of the sectors or bonds, in this case, of given criteria. In this case, I have the short-term 2-year, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year, and 30-year, as well as the 20. We can see that bond yields are continuing to move higher, which in turn, we are seeing TLT move lower. Okay, the bond price of the 20, and we see the 7 moving higher as well. These are 2-year lows. Let's take a look at the 6-month, and let's overlay RSI. We can see the 10-year is overbought and quite strong. It had a little flag here and is moving higher. 10-year yield. 20-year, we see the same thing. 3-year, the 2-year starting to move higher off of the 20 period, and the 5-year as well. Had you chosen the BKX and some of its components for setups, you could have seen a nice rally this week. Same thing with KRE, which we pointed out some time ago, where we had this breakout of this consolidation pattern right off the 20 period, and we had this move higher, directly related to the increase in yields over the last 2 weeks. Looking at XLY, we had pointed that out last week as well as one that we needed to keep an eye on. We broke above these levels here, so I'd continue to watch that. The defensive sectors, XLP, XLU, XLV, are doing okay, but not quite as good as some of the other offensive sectors. We see XLE starting to get above its 50 period, it's above its 20. XLF made a nice move, came down, touched the 50 period, and then moves higher after a retest of the 20. We have XLI moving above the 20 and the 50. XLK is closed right at the 50, it's now above its 20. XLB is still lagging. We'd like to see that move higher. And we have the semis doing quite well. SMH. IYT is trying to poke its head above the 50 period. Had a nice 2 days off of this little flag here, off of these June lows. XBI is doing well as can be expected. Looking at KBE, we can see that there's a Kirby up here, being there at prices we haven't seen before. Looking at the weekly chart, we can see these highs that we put in 2010 we've exceeded, and we're just running along the 10-period EMA on the weekly chart. Note Williams R is overbought, extremely overbought. But we saw that previously as well, and we can see the prices continue to move higher. If bond yields continue to make higher highs, we could see higher yields playing out in these interest-sensitive stocks. Zooming out to the monthly view, you can see that we had 53.50 as the high on the monthly back in 07, which we've yet to surmount, but we do have these highs here that we're trading above, and we can see this Kirby pocket on the monthly here as well. Now that we've gotten above the 27.75 level, we have some sailing up here into the 36 range more or less, but there is a Kirby pocket here, so between here and the highs in 07 would be a likely move towards the end of the year. SVB Financial Group, SIVB, was one of those charts that we traded off of this nice little wedge pattern and the 30-period moving average. We broke above the upper trend line and above the 10-period, and it's been clear sailing ever since. That was a good 15-point move on this particular stock, and noting the increase in volume, that was a forewarning to this breakout had you seen this big spike in volume last 2 weeks ago. Okay. First Community Bancorp was another. We connecting these highs here, we broke above the 10-period on volume. We noticed the volume first, and this was actually a post in the Day Trader Bootcamp chat room by Diana, who was focusing on the PACW banks, which this is a component of. Note what happens when stock price gets above the Kirby level that we see here. The volume at price above this level. Once the stock broke above that level, it was clear sailing. This is a chart of the BKX candlestick versus the SPY here, solid line, and RSI, as well as MACD and stochastics. Note that we had a MACD cross of the signal line 4 days ago, and we are embedded. We can stay up there for quite some time if MACD continues to move higher. But for the most part, the rising BKX SPY ratio has reached the highest level in 2 years, and it's normally a good sign, right? When bank stocks are leading the market higher, as they're doing last week, noting that rising bond yields and a steeper yield curve are helping the bank's profits, since the banks can make loans at higher rates and therefore paying depositors close to nothing. We'll see the gains probably in the future with bond yields continuing to move higher. So keep an eye on these. This appears to be a good sector to be in. I don't think the trend is over with yet, because we are at a 30-year low. Bond prices were in a bull market for over 30 years. So you need to be cognizant of that as you're trading going into year end this week as well as the rest of the summer. Okay, so I hope this helps going into the week. There are a number of stocks in the KRE and the BKX sectors that you can check out. Keep an eye on those, and also keep an eye on your sectors to see where the money is flowing. Okay, this is Cuz Mini coming to you from the closing print. Note you can come to my site. There's a lot of good information here on technical analysis, on strategies as I point out each week, as well as my watch list that I post here every weekend and update during the week. And in conclusion, there's a lot of tutorials and information here for less experienced traders. And on the technical analysis tab, there's a section here where I go over the style of trading that, if you follow me, it's good for you to know before you enter into any trades. Okay? If you follow me, that is. Okay? Take care. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from the closing print. I hope this helped.